Donald Trump said he's not afraid of putting boots on the ground in Venezuela when asked how long it would take, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Even that wasn't long enough. He said much longer. That's not ambiguous. So why wouldn't our Republican colleagues just do what Congress is supposed to do?
Donald Trump is absolutely losing his mind right now, and what's driving him crazy is something he cannot make disappear no matter how hard he tries. Multiple juries have found Trump liable in civil cases that are costing him tens of millions of dollars and destroying his reputation in ways criminal cases never did. 2 separate juries heard evidence about E. Jean Carroll's allegations. Both found Trump liable, one for abuse and defamation, $5 million, another for additional defamation, $83 million, Trump owing Carroll over $88 million total based on these verdicts. And here's what really has him erupting in rage. Appeals courts are upholding the findings. He appealed everything, threw every possible legal argument at judges, claimed trials were rigged, said juries were biased, argued damages were excessive, and appellate courts rejected it all, said verdicts were proper, evidence supported jury findings, damage awards constitutional, Trump liable for abuse and defamation. Those findings locked in permanently. Can't tweet them away, can't rally them away, can't executive order them away. Courts have spoken, Trump broke law, Trump owes money, and no amount of screaming about witch hunts changes those facts. But real quick, before we get into this, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built John Brown's show to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe, because you might think you are but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into what actually happened, because details matter enormously for understanding why Trump can't escape this. May 2023, Manhattan federal jury heard civil case E. Jean Carroll brought against Trump. Carroll is magazine columnist who came forward years ago saying Trump assaulted her in department store dressing room back in 1990s. Trump denied allegations, attacked Carroll publicly, called her liar, suggested she was making up story for attention or money. Carroll sued for defamation based on those statements. But during trial, jury heard evidence not just about defamation, about whether underlying assault actually occurred. Both sides presented their cases, witnesses testified, evidence submitted, and jury deliberated. Found Trump liable for abuse and defamation. Awarded Carroll $5 million in damages. That's formal legal finding, not allegation anymore, not accusation. Jury verdict after full trial, where Trump had expensive lawyers and every opportunity to defend himself. Now, this was civil case, not criminal prosecution. Important distinction. Civil standard is preponderance of evidence. More likely than not, something happened. Much lower than beyond reasonable doubt required for criminal conviction. So Trump wasn't convicted of crime. Doesn't face prison from this verdict, but jury did find, based on evidence, that it's more likely than not Trump abused E. Jean Carroll than defamed her. That's legal determination with real meaning, even though it's not criminal conviction. Trump's reaction was predictably explosive. Immediately attacked verdict as rigged and unfair. Claimed jury biased against him. Continued denying Carroll's allegations and attacking her credibility. But here's problem for Trump. Continuing to attack Carroll after jury found him liable for defaming her just creates more legal exposure. And that's exactly what happened. Trump kept making public statements about Carroll and verdict. Carroll's lawyers argued these were new defamation. She filed another lawsuit based on additional defamatory statements Trump made after first trial. Second case went to trial January 2024. This time, jury wasn't deciding whether Trump defamed Carroll. That was already established by first verdict. This jury only deciding how much Trump owed in damages for additional defamation. Second jury came back with verdict that was absolutely devastating financially. Ordered Trump to pay $83.3 million. Let me break down where that money goes, because amount is staggering. About $7.3 million for emotional harm and compensatory damages to Carroll. Another $1 million for reputational damage from Trump's continued attacks. But bulk of award, $65 million, is punitive damages. Punitive damages aren't to compensate victim. They're to punish defendant and deter future misconduct. Jury essentially saying Trump's behavior was so egregious, so malicious, so likely to continue unless he faced serious financial consequences that massive punitive award was necessary. When you add $5 million from first trial to $83 million from second trial, Trump owes E. Jean Carroll over $88 million based on these jury verdicts. Share this video with everyone you know, because Trump and lawyers immediately appealed both verdicts. Standard procedure. Trump had right to challenge through appeals process. Legal team made several arguments. Said verdicts not supported by evidence. Said judge made legal errors during trials that prejudiced Trump's defense. Said damage awards, especially punitive damages, were constitutionally excessive. And argued Trump should have protection from these lawsuits because of his position. All those arguments went to Second Circuit Court of Appeals, Federal Appellate Court covering New York, and Second Circuit largely rejected Trump's arguments. December 2024, court upheld core liability findings from first trial, found sufficient evidence for jury to conclude Trump abused Carroll, rejected arguments that trial was fundamentally unfair or that legal errors required overturning verdict. Then, 2025 separate appeals panel considered $83 million award from second trial. Trump's lawyers argued amount excessive and violated constitutional limits on punitive damages, but appeals court rejected efforts to overturn or sharply cut award. Trump still on hook for full $83 million judgment. While appeals continue on narrower procedural issues, appellate court saying basic findings of liability and damage awards are reasonable and will stand. This is enormously significant because multiple levels of judicial system have now looked at these cases and concluded verdicts were proper. Not just one jury in Manhattan that might have been biased. Jurors who heard all evidence plus appellate judges appointed by presidents from both parties who reviewed legal issues on appeal. All these different decision makers independently concluded Trump is liable for abuse and defamation and damage awards are within acceptable bounds. Trump cannot credibly claim this is all one biased judge or one rigged jury when multiple courts at multiple levels reached same conclusion. System has spoken clearly and consistently. Trump abused E. Jean Carroll and defamed her, and he owes her tens of millions of dollars. That's locked in legal finding Trump cannot escape. But E. Jean Carroll cases aren't only civil verdicts hammering Trump. New York civil fraud case. Judge found Trump, his company, and 2 adult children liable for massive business fraud. This case involved allegations by New York Attorney General that Trump systematically inflated value of his properties and assets in financial statements provided to banks and insurance companies. Purpose of these inflated valuations was allegedly to obtain more favorable loan terms and lower insurance premiums than Trump would have gotten with accurate valuations. After lengthy trial, Judge Arthur Engoron issued ruling finding Trump and co-defendants liable for fraud. Original penalty imposed was between $364 and $454 million, depending on interest calculations. One of largest civil fraud judgments ever imposed in New York. Trump's legal team appealed that fraud judgment. Had some success getting financial penalty reduced. Appeals court ruled late 2024 that monetary fine was excessive given specific circumstances. Court threw out huge fine Judge Engoron imposed. Trump and supporters immediately claimed total victory and vindication, said appeals court overturned fraud finding and proved Trump did nothing wrong. But that's not what appeals court actually said. Court explicitly upheld fraud liability finding, agreed with Judge Engoron that Trump committed fraud. What they disagreed with was size of monetary penalty, thought Engoron gone too far in calculating damages. But underlying finding that Trump engaged in fraudulent business practices was affirmed on appeal. Moreover, appeals court left in place other penalties beyond monetary fine. Judge Engoron had imposed restrictions on Trump's ability to conduct business in New York. Those restrictions included limitations on serving as officer or director of New York companies, requirements for independent monitors to oversee Trump Organization business practices, other non-monetary sanctions designed to prevent future fraud. Appeals court upheld those restrictions even while reducing financial penalty. So Trump's still facing significant legal and business consequences from fraud finding, even though he doesn't have to pay full original amount. His business operations in New York, constrained by court-imposed oversight and restrictions, affects his ability to do deals, obtain financing, conduct business as he did before fraud finding. Share this with everyone because when you put Carroll verdicts and civil fraud findings together, clear pattern emerges. Multiple juries and judges have now formally found Trump engaged in serious misconduct. These aren't just allegations or political attacks. These are legal findings after formal proceedings where Trump had every opportunity to defend himself with high-priced lawyers and expert witnesses. Findings span different types of misconduct: abuse, defamation, business fraud, come from different courts and different decision makers, but all point in same direction. Trump repeatedly violated legal and ethical norms, harmed others through his conduct, then lied about what he did. That pattern now part of official legal record in way Trump cannot erase through appeals or public relations campaigns. Civil nature of these verdicts important to understand. Criminal convictions require proof beyond reasonable doubt and can result in prison time. Civil liability requires only preponderance of evidence and results in monetary damages or other non-criminal penalties. Trump's supporters sometimes dismiss civil verdicts as less serious than criminal convictions. Argue civil cases have lower standards of proof and don't prove someone actually guilty of wrongdoing. But that misunderstands how legal system works. Civil verdicts are still formal legal findings rendered after adversarial proceedings. When jury says Trump abused someone, that's legal determination with real meaning even if not criminal conviction. When judge finds Trump committed fraud, that's judicial finding affecting his legal rights and business operations, even if he's not going to prison. Political implications of these civil findings are significant. During campaign, Trump's opponents constantly referenced Carroll verdicts and fraud findings, argued Trump is liable for abuse, who's been found liable for fraud by courts. Trump dismissed all of it as politically motivated witch hunts. His base largely believed him and supported him anyway. But for persuadable voters in middle, civil verdicts raise serious questions about Trump's character and fitness for office. Some voters who might have supported Trump on policy grounds were troubled by legal findings about his personal conduct. Civil cases may have cost Trump support among suburban women, college-educated voters, others who care about issues like assault and business ethics. Going forward, these civil verdicts will continue haunting Trump throughout presidency and beyond. Carroll judgments alone exceed $88 million. Trump will have to pay that money unless he can somehow get verdicts overturned on appeal, which appears increasingly unlikely given how appellate courts have ruled so far. That's massive financial hit even for someone of Trump's wealth. And money is just part of it. Findings themselves that Trump committed abuse and is defamer and fraudster according to courts and juries will follow him forever. Political opponents will reference them constantly. Historians will cite them when evaluating Trump's legacy. Legal system has placed these labels on Trump in formal official way he cannot escape through lawsuits or threats or public attacks. Appeals process has been particularly frustrating for Trump because he keeps losing at every level. Legal team made every argument they could think of to overturn or reduce verdicts. Argued evidentiary issues, jury instructions, constitutional violations, excessive damages. Appellate judges considered these arguments and largely rejected them. Second Circuit opinions on Carroll cases are detailed and thorough. Explain why verdicts were proper, why evidence supported jury findings, why damage awards are constitutional. These aren't cursory rejections. These are carefully reasoned opinions from respected federal appellate judges who looked closely at issues and concluded district court and juries got it right. Fact that even appellate courts with some Trump-appointed judges have upheld these verdicts is significant. Trump likes to suggest any adverse ruling against him is result of biased judges appointed by Democrats who hate him. But Second Circuit panel that decided Carroll appeals included judges appointed by presidents from both parties, not all Democratic appointees with axe to grind against Trump. Yet they unanimously or nearly unanimously upheld key liability findings and damage awards. Shows cases are legally sound regardless of political leanings of judges reviewing them. Evidence was strong enough, and legal basis solid enough that judges across ideological spectrum found verdicts proper. What this means practically is Trump now heads into 2026 midterm elections carrying court-backed labels he cannot shake. He is formally and legally found liable for abuse according to jury findings upheld on appeal. He is defamer who owes tens of millions in damages. He is fraudster whose business practices violated New York law according to judicial findings. Those aren't opinion pieces or partisan attacks. Those are legal determinations appellate courts have validated. When Democrats run campaign ads saying Trump has been found liable for abuse, they're not making it up or exaggerating. They're stating what courts and juries have formally determined. Trump can call it witch hunt all he wants, but legal findings stand regardless of his protests. Financial exposure from these civil cases also continues mounting in ways affecting Trump's business empire and personal wealth. $88 million plus owed to Carroll is just beginning. If Carroll files additional defamation suits based on new statements Trump makes, and she's indicated she may do so, those could result in more verdicts and more damages. Civil fraud case, even with reduced monetary penalties, still cost Trump tens of millions and imposed ongoing business restrictions. Other civil cases are pending, including January 6 lawsuits from police officers and members of Congress. Each carries potential for substantial damage awards if juries find in favor of plaintiffs. Trump could end up owing hundreds of millions more from civil judgments by time all these cases work through system. Contrast between criminal cases and civil cases is striking and important to understand. Trump has largely beaten or frozen criminal prosecutions through combination of return to presidency, favorable immunity rulings, procedural victories, not facing imminent prison time despite 34 felony convictions in New York which came with no actual punishment. But civil cases have proceeded and resulted in massive judgments Trump cannot escape. Civil plaintiffs don't need to worry about DOJ policies against prosecuting sitting presidents. State courts enforcing state law civil judgments have authority not affected by Trump's federal office. Result is civil legal system doing far more to hold Trump accountable and impose real consequences than criminal justice system has been able to do. For people trying to make sense of Trump's legal situation, Carroll and fraud cases actually more important than criminal cases in many ways. Criminal cases generate more headlines and drama because prison theoretically online. But those cases stalled or resulted in verdicts with no punishment. Civil cases produced concrete findings of serious misconduct, massive financial judgments, appellate affirmations that lock in those results. Civil verdicts do heaviest damage to Trump's reputation and business empire precisely because they've proceeded to final judgments being enforced. Trump cannot just run out clock or use presidential power to make them go away. He owes money. Liability findings stand. Restrictions on business operations remain in place. Those are real tangible consequences affecting Trump's life, regardless of political success. Carroll cases in particular carry special weight because of what they involve. Abuse is serious accusation that goes to character and fitness for office. When jury finds Trump abused someone that's devastating, blow to reputation among many voters, even if core supporters dismiss it. Fact that Trump then defamed his victim and had to pay tens of millions in additional damages makes it worse. Shows pattern of wrongdoing, followed by attacking victim rather than taking responsibility. That pattern resonates with critics who see Trump as someone who never admits fault and always blames others. Civil verdicts give concrete legal foundation to those character arguments rather than leaving them as subjective assessments. Looking ahead, Trump cannot simply put these civil cases behind him and move on. Carroll is vigilant about any new defamatory statements and shown willingness to file additional lawsuits. Fraud case restrictions on business operations continue for years. Other pending civil cases could result in new judgments. Trump will be fighting civil litigation throughout second term and beyond. Each new development generates negative media coverage. Each new judgment or unfavorable ruling reminds voters of legal findings against him. Civil cases create constant drumbeat of accountability. Trump cannot silence through tweets or rallies or executive actions. Courts have spoken, verdicts stand. Trump has to live with consequences in ways affecting both pocketbook and historical legacy. Bottom line is this. Multiple juries found Donald Trump liable in civil cases after hearing evidence and deliberating. E. Jean Carroll cases resulted in findings Trump abused her and defamed her. 2 separate juries, 2 separate trials, over $88 million in total damages. Trump appealed everything. Second Circuit Court of Appeals largely upheld verdicts, said evidence supported jury findings, damage awards constitutional, liability findings stand. New York civil fraud case found Trump committed massive business fraud. Judge Arthur Engoron ruled Trump systematically inflated property values to get better loans and insurance rates. Appeals court upheld fraud finding even while reducing monetary penalty. Trump's business operations in New York now under court-imposed restrictions and monitoring. These are formal legal determinations from multiple juries and judges, not allegations, not political attacks. Actual verdicts and judicial findings that Trump cannot escape. He owes money. He bears labels of someone found liable for abuse, defamer, fraudster according to courts. Those findings locked in regardless of his political power or public denials. Trump erupting in rage because appellate courts rejecting his arguments. Multiple levels of judicial system concluding verdicts were proper. Judges appointed by presidents from both parties reviewing cases and upholding core findings. Trump cannot credibly claim bias when courts across ideological spectrum reaching same conclusions. Civil legal system imposing accountability criminal system could not. Trump not facing prison but facing massive financial judgments and permanent reputation damage from court findings. $88 million to Carroll, tens of millions in fraud penalties, business restrictions, ongoing litigation that will continue throughout presidency. Consequences affecting his wealth, business empire, and historical legacy in ways he cannot tweet away or executive order away. Courts have spoken. Trump liable. Trump owes money. And no amount of screaming changes those facts. This story continues. Stay tuned. Stay.